for our next project, which is numbered 6.8, and this is a metric units, and we are going to learn how to draw an ellipse and also set our drawn limits to metric environment. And AutoCAD provides metric template, but we will be using our own custom template and converting that, or using the conversion factor of 1 equal to 25.4. In other words, 1 inch is equal to 25.4 millimeters. With this conversion factor, we can set our limits, and we can also set our scale, printing scale, when we finish the drawing for using the same template. Let's begin our drawing with our regular template. Start new and start with the CMA template, and I'm going to just draw a line here with the somewhere on the screen. Just pick a point, and this line I'm going to draw is going to be equal to the major axis of that ellipse. If you notice, that ellipse was 140 in one direction and 140 in and another direction is we don't know, but we know is 60-degree ellipse. So let's just draw that ellipse. Draw the line for major axis representing that, and gives you some idea what this line is going to be in reference to our limits or our template right now by typing 140. So when I type that 140, I expect to be 140 units. In this case, it's going to be inches, of course, but we can treat this as 140 millimeters as well, because we are in the decimal inches. We can switch to 140 millimeters easily. But notice that the relationship, our template file here is 8.5 by 11. In other words, on the x direction we had maximum limits of 11. Now we have 140. So we have increased. We need to increase the size of the limits where this line can fit easily. To do that, we go to limits under the format. If you don't have this pull down menu, you can activate it, and to activate, we have if you haven't already done so, click on this arrow. You can go to the show menu bar. Right now, if you have this situation, go to show menu bar. This is one way to access from the format drawing limits. Also, you can type limits. Either way is fine. Regardless of how you start the command, is going to ask you this question: what is the lower left corner? You're going to say, okay, 0,0 is fine by pressing enter, accepting the default. For upper limits, you will change that to 280 for x-axis, comma 216. These numbers can be calculated based on that scale factor. If you multiply 11 by 25.4 and 8.5 by 25.4, you get something closer to this number. So upper limits is going to be 280 by 260. In this case, of course, we are dealing with the units, which would be millimeter. So we can treat this as, it's just simply changing that. Now we have the same template that we can use. That's the only difference. Now this line, of course, is not in the right location because we changed it. Bring them a little bit here. If you want to keep this line as a construction line, is fine. We can delete later. So now we have this area, the limits area increased, so we can fit this ellipse easily within this paper, within this limits. All right, let's begin the ellipse command. Under this tool that I'm selecting, we have three choices: center ellipse, axis end, and elliptical arc, which we will explore this in later assignment. So we can begin with any of them. I'm going to begin with the axis end for this one by picking the endpoint. My object snap endpoint is already on, as you see. Clicking the end of the line and end of the line. So that defines our major axis. Now, because I don't know the minor axis, but I do know the rotation angle, as you see here, rotation angle is 60 degrees for both of them. So I could do this, but before I type that 60, I need to switch from the linear to the rotation to angular. So by selecting the sub command of rotation, by selecting that, don't forget this step, you have to select rotation first and then type 60. Right now, as I move my cursor, you notice it changes from 51 to 59 and so forth. You type just 60, 60, and press enter. Let me repeat this one more time for opposite directions. So we go to this time I'm going to select the center one, and I pick the midpoint. When I'm trying to pick the midpoint, remember object snap has to be set automatically. If not, I can hold the shift, right click, and select individually, say I want to go to the midpoint. Because I don't have it automatically set up right now. Pick the midpoint. Now that's defined the center. Last time I defined the 2 points for the major axis. This time I select the center point and it's asking the same question. What is the end point of the axis, minor axis? Actually, the major axis, sorry, I'm going in this direction for major axis. So I don't know that again as rotation angle is given, but also we know this is 140 as well. So if you go back to this assignment, it's going 140 and 140. So because I'm going from the center of them, it would be half of them. Half of 140 would be 70. And I make sure my ortho is on. So I go perfectly up, 70. And now I need to switch back to rotation angle by, first of all, don't forget to press F8 to change the ortho mode off, so it's flexible. Then I can type the angle. But before I type the angle again, I need to make sure that I activate rotation subcommand and then type 60. It's easy to forget that step. If you don't, you're going to get 60 millimeter length rather than angular measurements. You're going to get linear measurements. So basically these are done. So I can just go ahead, continue finishing the rest of them basically and add in those. Let's go back to the assignment and see what we need to do next. We have 4 circles here. We can use those. And also we need to locate those circles which are 45 from the center. And also we have another circle in the middle. So we can draw all those. So we have 24 diameter, 4x means that 4 of them. That x doesn't mean multiplication here, it means 4 places. This is a new technique. It used to be 4 places or 4 holes. We no longer, standard has been changed to use the symbol rather than words. And now we have x instead. So x means in this case 4 places, and diameter symbol, as you see, 24 for the circles. So, and also we have another 40 in the middle. Let's just go ahead and take care of those. So I'm going to draw a circle in the middle first. And that midpoint, again, I don't have them. Probably I should set my object snap setting to midpoint also. I don't have to repeat that. This is something you can, as you need. You don't want to have all of them on, but the one that you repeat constantly, you can have them automatically pick for you. And this is the diameter. Right now, what I did, I selected the radius option of the circle. It's asking me radius, and I need to type diameter of 40. I can either mathematically do that myself and say, okay, 40 divided by 2 is 20, or I can switch back to type in diameter. But it's easiest just to divide in the 40 by 2. If number is odd number, you can always select the diameter, so you don't have to do the math. Okay, so that's done. And now how about these locations? So remember the last thing I did here was the center. So anything I measure from here, if I use my relative coordinate system, I should be okay by just typing the distance. So if I repeat this command again, circle, this time I'm going to select the circle diameter, so I don't have to worry about that. Circle diameter, center diameter. So asking me where the center is, I'm going to type at. Remember, last thing I did was here. So from here, I know it's going to be 45. At 45, comma 0. That's the center. Puts me exactly there. And is asking what's the diameter? I type 24. Okay, now I'm at this point. I want to go to this point. I can do that too. I just press enter to repeat the command. I type at. This time I'm going to go negative 90, comma 0. I'm using the rectangle system. And that should put me in the right location there exactly. And 24 is still there, with 12 radius. I can accept that. Now from here, I want to go here. I have 45 this way and 45 this way. Can I do that? Of course you can. Press enter. At. I press enter to repeat the command, which is circle. Next question is, where is the location of the hole? I say at, in reference to, relative, in relation to this point, which is the last thing I did. Go 45, positive 45, comma, positive 45 again. So on the X and Y, both positive, because I'm going from this point, I'm going up and to the right. Wait a minute. I did not type at. That's what happened. Okay, let me repeat. Something happened here because I forgot to type at sign and measured from the origin. Remember, I have changed my settings to relative, to absolute, not relative. Okay, let's repeat this one more time. Now, I lost that reference point. I'm going to bring that reference point back by holding the shift, saying that from, I'm going to select the same point, just gives us an idea. From the center of circle, I don't have the center on. So now my reference is the same place. Then it's going to ask me where. I type at 45, comma 45. That's, I expect to be in the right place this time. And the radius is still 12. Okay, now before I forget my reference point, I'm going to repeat this one more time. At. This time I'm going to use the polar system. I'm going to say go to 90, angle 270. Again, I make sure that I did type at hopefully this time. And I did. And now 12 is the radius. Okay, so now I have everything is done accurately. So these are the things you need to apply as you use, even though there's a place I forgot to type that at sign. But again, if you have not changed that default settings, which I mentioned this before, if you go to the format, drafting settings, let me just review that part. It's not related to this particular case, but it's a good idea to know how you can change from absolute to relative or vice versa for your default. If you go to the tools, under the drafting settings, dynamic input, this is the enable point input settings. I have talked about this before, some classes. And here's it, mine is shown absolute. By default, if you haven't changed yours, you will be on relative. So you are always the at sign is not needed, is built in, but disadvantage on that one is if you want to go to absolute, sometimes causes the problems. That's what I prefer this one. This is the old system used to be this way, then they switched them because most people, they don't want to repeat that at sign. But anyway, I prefer this one. If you like the same way, just make sure that you control this. You learn how to do that. So AutoCAD is kind of open on this customization, so you can do that. All right, that completes almost. Beside, I need to do some trimming. My handout sheet maybe is the old-fashioned goes. You have to define the cutting edges, but cutting edges is the built-in as a default. So when you go to the trim command, the little scissors here, and then you don't need to define cutting edges, but I'd like to do that by selecting the cutting edges first. Then I pick the two ellipses. This way I don't have to go by piece. These are the cutting edges I defined by selecting cutting edges, then press enter, and then select the area that you want to cut. Just okay, so that is taken care of. Then I come back to the area that I need to cut. One more thing here, and pretty much that's done. And this line can be erased at this point. You don't need to add any dimensions. You need to just submit this drawing as it is, and that completes your drawing. Okay, well, that's one more thing I need to mention. It could be an issue for printing. Okay, now everything we did on this model space. We are in the model space environment. And I'm going to switch to layout. Once I do switch to layout, I'm going to see my title block, and I don't see my drawing. So what I need to do, right now notice that my XY shows as a normal XY icon. I am in the floating model space. I go to zoom all. That brings the drawing in. Okay, what scale is this drawing right now? If you look back here, shows 0.029. I want to have one-to-one metric. If I go to one-to-one metric, one-to-one here, it's going to go huge because it thinks that I'm in the inch environment, right? So I need to do some customization here. So if suppose you were printing this one on the small paper, you want to have a scale printing, we need to go to not scale to fit, but rather you want to do the customization. So we have here at the last one, if you scroll down, you see the custom, select custom. And here you want to add something. Here it says name appearing in this list. So this is something that you want to column 1 equal 1 mm for metric. Here is the factor. This is just the information, just lists for you. I put that mm to be distinguished between the inches. So here is the 1 unit is equal to how many? Remember the scale factor? 25.4. Okay, if we do that, then we have another scale created here. Then okay. Now I'm going to go to on the floating model space, select this scale. Rather than 1-to-1, I'm going to say 1 equal 1 mm. Okay, this is 1-to-1 metric, and then double click outside to switch back to the paper space and lock in that position. Accidentally, if I zoom in and out, you see I'm changing my scale. This is what happens most of you when you submit. You are not paying attention to that. Just it happens. Just go ahead. As soon as you set your scale, either 1-to-1 inches, 1-to-2 inches, then right away lock in that position by switching paper space. Now, regardless of how you do, is just your scale is not changing. You are just zooming in and out because you are on the paper space. And just watch this icon. Now this is ready to print as a PDF or any physical hard copy as 1-to-1 scale. And here maybe you want to add something about this, saying 1-to-1 mm, and add other information as usually we do. Okay, that's something I just want to share. So I hope that eliminates any other confusion on this metric scale. All right.